Hello YouTube. I recently went on a trip to Legoland with my wife and kids, and I thought as a 40-something-year-old I would do a video just to show some of the things that I saw. So these two spiders were particularly cool, I thought. This big one that's moving was on top of a ride that had it was a bit like one of those cup and saucer rides. I remember going on one of those cup and saucer rides with my ex-girlfriend once, and as they were spinning around, this was just at a fairground, we saw like this bolt come out of the floor and like it just undid itself and it sort of like jumped across this cup and saucer ride and really freaked me out. But I still go on them. My kids were turning the little handle thing to make it go faster and faster, which I really didn't appreciate. Anyway, most of the faster rides you're not allowed to take videos on, unfortunately. But I'll talk about one that we went on that was particularly cool in a minute. Obviously, there are loads of big model Lego sculptures everywhere. This dragon one, for example, was particularly good. I love when they get that sort of pixelated effect. I know this is nothing to do with Lego, but I was really impressed with the amount of wildlife that was just around the whole park. These ducks were really friendly. We just sat there and they came, and the white one kept trying to jump onto my wife's lap. They were just, yeah, so cute and so friendly. Most of the larger model Lego kind of sculptures and things were in really obvious places, really easy to see. Some of them were a little more hidden, like this Parasaurolophus that you could easily have walked past without seeing. It was next to this mighty great sort of oak tree with a big hole in it. Very cool. And then there was a big lake, and we saw a load of these. I think they're mirror carp. They were huge, great things, probably like at least a couple of foot long. And as I zoomed my camera across the lake, there's a heron over there, and he's looking really hopeful. But if all of those fish are the same size, I don't like this heron's chance of trying to fly off with one of these 2 foot fish. They're absolutely massive, but he's looking really hopeful anyway. There must have been literally hundreds of these carp because the lake was really huge and they were just, yeah, congregating in large numbers. So, apart from the lake and the fish in the lake, there was also a ride that you could go on, which was like a sort of a submarine type thing. It was actually more like a sort of glass bottom boat, but you sit on it and then you can look through. And there were the shark underneath the water and other fish as well, things like rays, and you could video those. That was allowed, and as you can see, I managed to get a bit of pretty cool footage. Obviously, there were loads of things like Lego divers and plastic treasure chests and all this kind of stuff. Not the sort of thing that you'd want to see in the real ocean, but here it was pretty cool. After you got out of the boat at the end, there were a load of other aquariums and things inside, and some of them had like a bubble in the middle, like a dome. And here you can see this is a Picasso triggerfish, which is a really cool type of fish. I love these. And inside here is the dome with my son inside, looking at it all from the inside, which is a pretty cool way of viewing it, I would imagine. Then this is a really cool fish as well. And inside the dome, my daughter, just watching it from the inside. It reminded me of scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef, where there were obviously loads of really brightly coloured fish. There was a particular type of fish called a surgeon fish that we were warned not to touch them because they have this really sharp kind of razor-like um, projection on their tail. So if you look at this one here, which is a bit like Dory, he's got a yellow tail with a little sharp bit on it. I think he might be a type of surgeon fish. I'm not entirely sure. And then we've got Nemo to go with him. So whenever you see a clownfish from now on, everybody just goes, "Look, it's a Nemo." This crocodile was pretty cool too, and obviously loads of kids were having their photos taken with the head in its mouth and that kind of thing. Okay, there's a ride here that obviously, my wife and my son was on, and I was videoing them. But while that plays, I'll just tell you a little bit about my Lego collection. just in case you're interested. You might not be. I buy loads of Lego whenever I'm at car boot sales and things like that. And what I tend to do is buy it, pick out all of the figures because I'm really interested in the figures more than anything. And then I tend to kind of bag up the rest of the Lego and sell it as like a sort of job lot on eBay. I've been collecting the figures, and it's mainly the Star Wars figures that I collect. But then I also pick out anything that I like, that's really kind of interesting looking to me. So I collected a lot of the Lego series figures. Again, the ones that I kind of like mostly, things like, Frankenstein or anything that's kind of monster related, aliens and things like that. I like all those kind of weird creatures. So I pick all of those out. And yeah, my Star Wars Lego figure collection is pretty huge, and is it grows all the time. I just every time I get a bit of Lego, manage to pick out a few that I haven't got, I just add them into my collection and sell the rest. It's actually a nice stage to be at when you've got most of them or most of the ones that you want. It just means that every time you do buy some more Lego, if it's got Lego Star Wars figures in it and you happen to have them all already, you can just sell them on eBay and make some money. So a lot of the rides were fairly tame, like this one. There was a thing that we went on, the one I was telling you about, that was really cool, or I thought was really cool. It was called something like the Flight of the Ice Lion, and it's like a 4D thing. So you go in and you're just looking at TV screens initially, you're all kind of strapped in, and then it sort of spins you around, and then suddenly you're in this room, which is like a big sort of circular room, and it's just like projecting the image towards you, kind of thing, and you feel like you're immersed in it, and you go on this kind of ride like you're kind of flying. Your legs are kind of hanging down, and it really does feel like you're kind of going through the air. Very cool, and things are just kind of hurled at you, and you whiz past things, and water kind of splashes at you and things like that. That is very cool. I did like that one, and in fact we ended up going on that one twice. So that's the one that I would recommend if you haven't been to Legoland for a while and you haven't heard of that. That's really quite cool. Okay, so obviously all this footage that you're seeing now is, the Lego model village kind of thing, I think they call it, but it's obviously just, places from around the world in miniature Lego form. It's done really well, actually, very cool, and, you recognize lots of places. So some of the earliest Lego sets that I remember owning as a kid, apart from Fabuland, which were like the little animals and things, I remembered the space Lego. That's what I remember kind of most fondly now. All the little astronauts had really simple heads. They were just like smiley faces with two eyes. And they had their little backpacks on, and they had um, the little helmets and things. Just really, really cool. Also, when I was a kid, I went to Florida, to Cape Canaveral, and saw, all the space shuttles and things. So that bit of footage you just saw was particularly cool for me. But yeah, I remember all of the little kind of moon buggies and little space vehicles, all really cool. I put a lot of my kind of artistic ability nowadays down to actually using and playing with Lego when I was a kid, because a lot of the instructions, you're making things and it says, fix this part to this part, and it shows you it at different angles. And I think by doing that, it almost kind of programs your brain to look at things in your imagination from different angles. So I could take an object now and I can kind of turn it around in my head. And when I'm drawing it, I can draw it from kind of any angle almost if I've seen it from, the front and the back and the sides or whatever, and then just put it down. I can usually remember what it's all like, and I can just draw it from different angles without kind of thinking about it. And I'm pretty convinced that that is to do with that whole kind of looking at Lego instruction booklets as a very kind of young child. I also remember as a child getting the technical Lego Dune buggy, and I remember that being really cool, like making it one Christmas and playing with it, and it had like little suspension bits on it, and big wheels. I used to love that kind of thing when I was a kid. Some of the things I've done particularly well at car boot sales with Lego is one time I bought a bag of Lego and inside was a Lego monorail set, which is quite a rare-ish set, quite an expensive set to buy. So I picked all the pieces out, built up the set, and then sold that on eBay. And that was fully working, like an electric model, so you could control this little monorail. Again, in a separate tub of Lego, there was a Maersk train set, which was pretty cool, and most of the bits were there. So again, I made some good money on that. Another time, I was at the car boot sale, and this lady was showing me this whole load of Lego, and she said somewhere in that box of Lego there is the Lego Death Star, and I bought that and I took it home and I thought, I was thinking to myself, don't try and make the Lego Death Star, but then of course you go online and you find you find the instructions, and then you look at the first bit of the instructions, and it just says find this piece and attach it to this piece, and then suddenly you find yourself looking for those bits and you join them together, and then it's too late. You've started building the Death Star. And the Death Star, I had this feeling it would take quite a long time to build anyway, even if you bought it, new in a box. But this one, because it was all just bits that were in with a whole load of other bits from various Lego sets, it ended up taking me ages to build this thing. But I did do it, and it was complete. Like the lady said it would be complete, because she said we keep all our bits together. And again, I ended up selling that on eBay, and I got over 300 quid for it. But I've always sort of regretted it, and I thought, maybe I should have just kept that Lego Death Star. It was pretty cool. I can sort of understand why Lego don't do this, but for me, it's a kind of a shame that they don't. And that is to have a section somewhere that is all just Lego Star Wars stuff. For me, the Star Wars side of Lego at the moment is the most kind of interesting bit. It's the figures that I collect, and I think other people that are the same age as me, as well as younger kids as well, would obviously appreciate having a Star Wars section here. I know they don't want to kind of turn it into just a sort of a Star Wars thing, but I don't think it would take away from the overall effect of Legoland. Right, if you're watching this and you haven't been to my channel before, be sure to check out my collections of Lego Star Wars figures, for example, but also other kind of like 80s toys as well. And I make creatures from various movies, and some of them you will recognize, some of them are movies that are a little bit more obscure. Hit subscribe to see anything that I post up in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.